All right, James. We just had Robert Leonard on, who's huge in podcasting space in the
Yeah,
finance niche. What do you think, man?
yeah, it's one of our best podcasts, I reckon. Great guest to have on. I mean, people be very interested in how he's making his money through various podcasts and how much that actually brings in, which is pretty nuts. And then we dive into the real estate space, and obviously he has his own niche websites too on the side, which is crazy. Just randomly
Yeah,
niche websites on the side, and I quite enjoy talking about how we could further grow the revenue on his podcast site too. I mean, man, there's so much opportunity there for them to make affiliate commissions from that audience that is untapped.
yeah, I agree. And he also has, yeah, he takes the Warren Buffett approach. So if there's any Buffett fans
Oh yeah.
in our
Maybe we should
audience, they're gonna
title
love
this
this
video
episode.
something about Warren Buffett. See if
Yeah,
there's
how
things
he
to.
uses Warren Buffett to grow his niche sites. I don't know.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
do that. Just put that in Chat GPT, bro.
yeah,
See
true
what it
that, true
spits
that.
out.
But yeah,
But yeah,
I think he has some levers he can pull in his business, and I like that he studies other creators and how they like approach things.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think we gave him some ideas on how to grow with the on the
Yeah, and
SEO
the real
content space.
estate business niche chat at the end is very good for anyone who's looking to potentially diversify outside of niche websites as well. Especially with the, I mean, he's very scared of the incoming AI SERPs. um, with what Google's doing, what everyone in the space is kind of looking at, and kind of brings us to our sponsor today, dofollow.io. And the reason I say it brings us to a sponsor because AI content and content is now becoming cheaper and easier to create. As he mentioned with his, what Robert mentioned with his site is that a lot of his content he reckons can be served just through AI. So what's going to be the difference maker with a lot of sites is going to be the link profile, right? I mean, as Jackie mentioned about Robert's podcast site, he's got so many external signals, he could probably rank anything because of that. And one way of doing that is having really, really damn good links. And DoFollowIO can do that for you. It's pure outreach. They don't have a list of sites. They just contact to place your links on. They do actual outreach. You have a dedicated account manager, and the pricing's based on DR of the website as well. So all of that means you're going to get an actual genuine link, not something just on some shitty link farm or magazine that's not going to do anything for you. So make sure you check them out. DoFollow.io. There'll be a link in the description there for you to check that out and start getting some links, and make sure you're not going to get destroyed by the new AI coming out through Google.
Yeah, exactly. And guys, I this is a good episode. I think this is one that you guys should listen to and send all the positive signals towards it. Yeah, it was really fun to chat with Robert. We should chat with him, have him on again sometime.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, give it a listen, guys. What's good, everyone? It's Jackie Chow,
And this is James DeLacy.
and you're listening to This Week in Digital Marketing. All right, welcome to This Week in Digital Marketing. My name is Jackie Chow. My co-host is James DeLacy, and we have Robert Leonard on today. Robert, why don't you give the audience a quick intro, and then we can dive right into what you're up to.
Yeah, so Robert Leonard, real estate investor, and also getting into the online business world so that I could buy more real estate. Originally was interested in buying real estate, decided I didn't want, or I needed more money to buy more real estate. And so I said, okay, let me start a business. And then tried a couple little projects here and there, didn't really work because I realized I couldn't get customers. And so then that brought me into digital marketing, realized I need to learn how to get customers for anything I do. And yeah, so I've just been doing that for the last year, learning everything I can, building some projects here and there. And then, yeah, of course, have the podcasts, and we do that as well.
Amazing. And right now, what's your like main source of income? I guess it would be the podcast, your network of like media businesses.
Yeah, podcast.
Okay, okay. Well, like how have you like what tactics have you used to grow it? Because like we're growing very slowly, or is this normal? We're a couple months in. I think we're only sat at about like what 1,000 listens per episode. I just feel like that's pathetic. James, you've got to step it up. Robert, do you have any tips for us?
So are we talking about the podcast medium specifically?
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Yeah. So for us, our main like flagship show, the one that does millions of downloads a month, That one benefits mostly, I would say, I don't want to say mostly, but a big piece of it was from kind of luck and just when it got started. It started in 2014. It was very early days. It was the
Mm,
first show that was really focused on Warren Buffett value investing, and so it drew in a big crowd. And we've kind of just ridden the wave because of that. I mean, we've had great content sent, we've had great guests. I mean, we've done a lot of things right in that respect. But I think the biggest driver of the growth was just that we were early. I think if you look at how much we grew kind of in the early days, maybe the first 5 years versus the second 5 years, the first 5 years of growth was way more than we've experienced lately. And I think that's partially just, again, like I said, because we grew the wave, we kind of rode the wave of podcasts when it
mhm,
first started, but also, I mean, it's competitive now. I mean, there's still a lot less podcasts than there are YouTube channels and other like blogs and stuff
mhm.
like that. But it's competitive. There's definitely a lot of people out there, a lot of people in your niche, a lot of people in our niche. So it has definitely become a lot harder to grow. And Jackie, I think you might follow My First Million, but if you don't, there's a
Mhm.
podcast called My First Million. And those guys are like experts at growing, growth hacking businesses, online businesses. And they often talk about how like growing the podcast is the hardest thing
Yeah.
that they've ever had to try and grow. And I mean, I agree. It's so difficult to grow.
Yeah. Because I think podcasts, they don't have this, what is it, this organic discoverability. Like
Mm.
they don't have
There's no
uh,
virality.
yeah, exactly. But I guess once you get your listeners, they're very sticky, right? What kind of metrics are, I mean, can you disclose? Sorry, I just jumping right into it. Like, what kind of like listenership do you have for your flagship value investing pod?
Yeah, so I believe that one is, let me do some math. We're at like the times, let's see.
And what's your like cadence right now? Is it like a daily podcast or?
No, it's not daily. It's we kind of have been switching it up. So it's two, three, 4 times a week, depending on the week.
Hmm.
We've been testing, adding a little bit more content, doing a little bit less content. We've kind of been mixing it up, but we're between 2 and 4 episodes a week, and I'd say we're like 2 to 3 million downloads a month, somewhere in that range.
Wow.
That's crazy, man. That's insane reach. All right. Wow. Do you ever have people going up to you on the streets? Like, because that's pretty significant. But I guess are you the host of the show?
Not of that show, no. No. So
Oh,
we have in total 5 shows. I don't
that's
host
crazy.
that one. I'm more like back office these days. I hosted 2 of our shows. I hosted the first 150 episodes for both of those
Wow.
2 shows. Those are about like 500 to 750,000 downloads a month. So not as big as the other one, but still decent size. Uh, and so I don't host those anymore. I just got kind of sick of hosting, to be honest, and so we brought in other people to host,
Hmm.
and I kind of lead the podcast from like the back office side of things. But yeah,
Would you
Yeah.
recommend someone starting a podcast do 2 to 4 times a week, or is that something you built up to once you had the audience? Because I can imagine someone starting out, them being like, okay, I'm gonna do 3 or 4 podcasts a week. It's a shit ton to put out there when there's no one listening.
I think it depends on kind of what your goals are. That's the thing with podcasting is if your goal is to make podcasting the business and that's the revenue source, like that is a service or a business line, like a revenue driver for you, you have to treat podcasting one way versus if you're using podcasting as a marketing channel for another product or service you offer or sell, then you've treated it a totally different way. I think if you're going kind of selling your own thing and it's just a marketing channel, I don't think you have to do as much content. I think you can kind of maybe once a week, twice a week, make it really high quality, make it really targeted to your audience. You don't have to have the biggest show. You don't have to have millions and millions of downloads. I think you'd rather have really targeted audience for what you're trying to sell versus if you're trying to make it a business, which I think is a lot harder. Yeah, you kind of have to get the frequency up there because I mean, the name of the game here is selling impressions. You guys are in the newsletter game, you're in the niche site game, affiliate, we're trying to get impressions, we're trying to get eyes on ads, right? It's the same with podcasts. We have a catalog with the only difference is here with like niche sites and like newsletters and stuff. We know how much you're going to get for or you're going to see, you get paid on how many impressions you get, versus for us, we have like an inventory of impressions that we know we're going to get, and we have to sell that. So yeah, I mean, basically, if it's going to be a business, you have to try and get as many impressions as month as you can. The way you get more impressions is doing more content. So kind of depends on what your business model is, but
Yeah, gotcha. That's interesting. I mean, you and I spoke privately in DMs about the sponsorship side, I believe. And why don't do you mind going through that with the audience? Like, what's your setup right now? If I remember correctly, you guys do you guys do outbound as well? Like, do you guys, the salespeople, go out and grab clients?
oh
And
yeah,
what's
yeah.
your current like setup like? Do you instruct them at all, or do you have like a great sales team that they just know exactly what they need to do?
We have a great sales team. So we have two or three full time salespeople, salary plus commission, that are doing. I mean, they do inbound as well. We do get a lot of
Mm-hmm.
inbound stuff. We do a little bit of work with agencies, but they're doing outbound as well, trying to get clients as much as they can. They have relationships from either previous partners that they've had or people they hear on other podcasts. They'll reach out. I mean, honestly, I'm not in sales, so I don't know their exact process, but they're
Mm-hmm.
definitely great salespeople, and so we have a full team that's doing that now. At the early days, we worked exclusively with agencies. There's tons of agencies out there that will sell your ads for you. They'll bring you them, and they just take a commission of it, which if you're smaller works great. But we got to the point where we were selling so much that we could say, okay, well, if you take this commission, if you see how much we're paying in commissions, we're like, okay, we can allocate that towards somebody's salary instead and have it in house. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of where we eventually got to that tipping point where it made sense to just bring in the team in house.
Yeah. Which agencies did you guys use?
Honestly, the names are kind of slipping my mind at this point. It's
Yeah.
been a couple years. It's probably been like 2-ish years since we've used like any of the agencies. But if you mention them, I'd recognize them.
Hmm. Gotcha. No, I've they're also slipping my mind. I've like browsed a couple of their sites, but never got through to any of them. No, I think the podcast business model is pretty interesting, especially in a time like this. Have you seen a drop off in advertisers lately? I've been hearing across like different models that the sponsorships are dropping a bit, like
So what
slipping
we
away.
saw,
Yeah.
yeah, so we saw actually at the end of last year and at the early this year, yeah, we did see it drop a bit, but we're actually seeing it come back now quite a bit. So I'd say like end of Q4 last year, early Q1 this year was tough. We definitely saw a lot of drop off in ads, but like towards the end of Q1 and then early Q2 of this year, it's picked up quite a bit again.
Hmm. Gotcha. And are you because I see you're into real estate. I guess do you also have like niche sites? I believe you do. And like what's your revenue split look like right now? Is it like well diversified, or is it heavily like are you like overweight podcast revenue?
So the niche site stuff is interesting. So, well, I think it's kind of interesting. Bad timing for me, if you ask. But anyway, so I signed a book deal with Simon and Schuster year and a half ago.
Oh,
Anyway,
nice.
went through the whole process. We got the book published, and when it came to go publish, I needed a website, and I had built like a couple little websites, like just crappy stuff, like nothing special. But while I was looking up this process of like needing a site for the book, I stumbled on niche sites, and I was like, holy crap, this is like super interesting. Like I love this business model. And so I like dove in for like 3 months, studied everything I could, and I built a site around my book, House Hacking. It's a book about house hacking. So I built a niche site about house hacking, and it was a small win, but like I started it in July and I sold it in September for like 10 grand. So, I mean, it's small, but like I was like, wow, this actually works. So then uh, I started another niche site in September as soon as I sold the other one, and it's grown way bigger than the other one has. And I was super excited about it. I decided I was not going to monetize it through like a Zoic or AdSense. I was just going to wait for Mediavine, but and that's what I've done. And I haven't quite hit Mediavine numbers yet. So I was like getting there, but now with AI and everything coming, I'm like not really super pumped about the niche
Hmm.
site space. So yeah, I would say in terms of like income to your question, yeah, it's like almost all podcasting.
Hmm. Yeah, but the niche side side is definitely uh incredibly lucrative. I personally seen like a drop off in the valuations lately. It's pretty scary times. But I'm pretty bullish on. So I'm less so bullish on the display ads revenue. I guess
Mm.
I don't know if you spoke about your niche before, but the your niche, I think there's some good opportunities for like affiliates. Affiliates is like a good way to diversify because a lot of people don't do it that well, especially in the niche side game. It's mostly display ads, right, James? Or
Yeah, most people doing
yeah,
display ads, but and kind of sprinkling an affiliate to top it off. But not many people are going hard down the affiliate route as their main driver of income
yeah,
on their sites.
yeah.
So I wanted to do both, but here's what sucks about my niche that I chose for this one is that a lot of the stuff that so I'm in the automotive niche, I'll just say, and for this one site, and a lot of
Mm.
the stuff is not available through sites that have good affiliate programs. Like ideally, I'd like to just use Amazon for simplicity because it converts so well. Like obviously the commissions are like I've heard from a lot of people that the commissions are low, but it just converts so much better than like using another like affiliate program that has higher commission rates and like they often almost balance out. So anyway, like the parts for these vehicles and stuff like that aren't available on Amazon. So a lot of the stuff that I would review for affiliate programs aren't
Mm.
available. There's just no way to collect an affiliate commission. So yeah, it's been tough. I haven't found a way around that. So really, my main focus was display ads, and I just think that that's going to go away. So
Have
I'm
you thought about
a
private
little bummed.
sponsorship? I was talking
Yeah,
to someone not too long ago who has a friend that sold his automotive site for like 8 figures, mainly on private sponsorship banners on the site, which is crazy.
The heck.
how did he
Yeah.
do it? How did he reach out to them? Did he just cold email
Uh,
them?
yeah, I'm not entirely sure of the process, but just yeah, crazy. Just basically bet he had display ads on the site, and then he was going to make way more just off having these private, basically sponsorship deals on the site with banners and stuff like that. And that's how he ended
Yeah,
up doing
Wonder
it.
what the
So that could
it's
RPS
be a
is.
way.
Yeah,
funny.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
funny you say that because like I was when I went into this niche, I was when I started seeing some of the numbers and started getting traction, I was like, there I'm not selling this site until it's at least 7 figures or at least 7 figures. And I think it could be more. And I was fairly confident that this was definitely possible. And then, and mostly just display ads, even like not even so much
Mm.
affiliates, but now, yeah, I mean, I do want to do the brand outreach, but I guess my concern here is not so much whether display ads will work or cold outreach to brands and stuff. It's how I'm going to get traffic because everything I get for traffic right now is through SEO, and it's a lot of it. I'll be honest, a lot of it is stuff that AI could replace. Like if Bard shows up in SERPs, like my site's going to be probably like taken away. Like there's no reason that it can't answer a lot of my posts that are driving a ton of traffic. So yeah, I think I'm kind of stuck.
Mm. I'm not sure if you guys are seeing this, but there's like a mini, what is it, movement on Twitter with the gurus, like the Faceless YouTube channels. I think
Mm.
one of the, I think was it the Morning Brew guys? They're looking to start like multiple channels in the Faceless
Really?
YouTube niche. Yeah, it's pretty easy, man. You just need someone to voice over, and I think
Yeah.
Robert, that might be something
I
you
could
should
do the
look into.
voiceover. Yeah.
Yeah, and also you probably have like a team to do it also.
How do they
But
make the videos?
they use like animation. It's stupid. I'm sure you can get a video editor and just rock it on Canva. But the thing is, like, it's got to be like 10 minutes plus, right? So, for example, using value investing, like maybe like a concept Warren Buffett has talked about in the past, and then you guys just spread that out into like an in-depth 10-minute video, and then that
Like
shit
we
will
do.
just go
Crush.
bonkers. And the
Yeah.
RPMs in finance space is like ridiculous on YouTube. Um, yeah, and there's like a lot of tactics that you can use besides the virality from the YouTube search recommendations. You can also use like SEO tactics on YouTube to rank for the video in YouTube search because this is the number 2 search search engine in the world, right? So what you can do is like you try to rank for example, best VPN on YouTube, and it's super easy because not many people know about it, like how to rank on YouTube. Um, but yeah, it's just something I looked into recently because I was like, gotta diversify somehow. But because YouTube, I think it's here to stay. I don't know how you guys feel, but I think there's
Yeah.
something there. Uh, feels like, yeah. Do you guys do much YouTube, Robert, on your like media
So
side?
so there's kind of yeah. So there's kind of two separate things. Like we have all the podcast stuff, right? The
Hmm.
podcast company, the podcast business. And then outside of that, I have like my own projects, my own little side businesses, if you will, that I'm working on. And the niche site that I was talking about is like my own project, has nothing to
Hmm.
do with the podcast. And then on the podcast side, we have all our own operations there. So we kind of think about things very differently there because the podcast side, it's not a niche site. Like we're not approaching it like a niche
Hmm.
site. We do have YouTube presence. We don't do any display ads. We don't really do any affiliates. We don't do anything like that. It's just mainly just a podcast and our newsletter right now. We're trying to do like a morning brew type newsletter. And then on the niche site side, I've looked into a lot of the things that you said as well. I've looked into the faceless videos. I've looked into all kinds of stuff like that, affiliates, etc. So I guess it just depends on kind of which side of my projects you're talking about.
Yeah,
But yeah, on the podcast side, we do a lot of YouTube stuff. Mostly like just uploading our episodes to YouTube is mainly what we do.
yeah. And I guess you guys also cut them up, right, into shorts,
Hmm.
or
Not so
um,
much, not too much.
yeah, you gotta get on
Interesting.
that, man. It's
We've experimented, and we don't have great results, and
Interesting.
yeah, we just haven't had great results with it. So
yeah. I think you just need a couple of viral ones, and then you're good. Especially since you guys are so popular.
see
I think my
the
first
thing
million
though with
attributed. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say the thing with what we do in the podcast side of businesses, the business stuff, is that we're very buttoned up. Like we're very professional,
Hmm.
very and I think that hurts us from a viral perspective. Like if you put us up against like other podcasts, I think people would say like, yeah, we have really quality content. Like the guests are great, high class, our audio is great, like we're high quality. But I think sometimes that makes it difficult to go viral because like if you look at the My First Million guys, some of this I love them. Like I love their shows. I just went to their live show in Austin. Like I love
Oh,
them.
nice.
But what they do is like a lot of what they say is like unpolished. Like it's great for viral content, and I think that is really good for them. But for us, like it's not. It just doesn't go viral because we're just very polished. It's very white collar. It's very like
Mm.
professional. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain, but that's at least
Yeah.
that's kind of what I'm seeing.
No, I hear you. Is it because when you're cutting it, are you cutting it also in a professional manner? The edits you're using. Is it like a lot
Yeah. Yes
slower?
and no. Yes and no. We tried to like push the envelope a little bit with that, but like, we'll have hedge fund managers or like some of the biggest investors,
Mm,
like even like Ray Dalio and stuff. And like, it's just not viral really. They're just explaining investment stuff. It's more like sitting through like a college
like a
class,
lecture,
like
right? Yeah.
a professor, yeah, like a lecture than it is, like
Mm.
a viral piece of content. So we really struggle with that.
Hmm. I think one way you guys can approach it is there's these, what is it, long short form that Kevin from Epic Gardening talks about, is where he takes like a long form like for example your podcast, and then just cut it into like 10-minute segments. Like each
Mm.
chapter could be an episode on YouTube. And then you can farm RPMs that way. I'm not sure if you guys are utilizing that, but similar to Joe Rogan. Do you see Joe Rogan? Because he's not allowed to upload full episodes on YouTube anymore, so he uploads like 10-minute segments
Clips.
on YouTube. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
like long clips, but they're not like the vertical ones. They're the long YouTube clips. But yeah, it's just an idea I had personally for our own podcast. That's why I think we're gonna try
Yeah,
it.
I'll have to check it out. The other thing, and this, I'm trying to think of the right way to say this because I don't want it to come off the wrong way. But like at our number of downloads, whatever we implement has to like the YouTube stuff. It doesn't move the needle. I guess is my point. Is like
Mm,
when you have 2 to 3 million downloads a month, or even my shows that have like 5 to 750,000, like an extra 1,000 listeners is, it just doesn't move the needle. You know what I mean? And so like, yeah, maybe some of these shorts could drive some traffic, but it's immaterial. And we're putting a lot of time and effort of our team and cost behind it. And it's just, we need something that like really, really moves the needle compared to like just adding a couple thousand versus like your guys' show that has 1,000 listeners. If you get an extra 500 or even 200, like you're up 20% right there, or, you know,
Mm-hmm.
1,000, you doubled. For us, like 1,000 is just, it doesn't mean anything. So that limits like what we can do. And like I study hours a day,
I'm
like
sure you
all
do.
these growth.
Yeah.
I study you a lot. I study all over Twitter, like all what these guys are doing. And I think a lot of it's great for like smaller creators, but when you get to the scale that like we're at, it's hard for it to be material. And that's like our threshold is like a material level. And that's really, really hard.
I agree, actually. I do think there's something. So like, you know how the My First Million guys, right? If we studied them, because I studied them like really heavily, how like their exact playbook on how to grow their podcast. Um, they've been pushing heavily into YouTube. Like they actually, it's a call to action on their podcast. I'm not sure if
Yeah,
you do
yeah.
that or if you want to do that, because what happens is I think what they're personally seeing is they have a higher chance of going viral on YouTube. So they're like funneling them there, and also it will like snowball their shorts creation. Uh, but yeah, that's just also something I'm seeing personally. But this is like you said, I think it's on the smaller scale, so we have to do more growth hacky things. But it's interesting that the My First Million guys try that too. I mean, I'm sure they
Well, so
tried
here's the
everything.
difference. Here's the difference with them. They don't they make money. They probably make more money from YouTube than they do from the podcast because it's owned by HubSpot. So they're not
Yeah.
trying to use the podcast, like get as many advertisers as they can versus us. Like we do a lot of money
True.
per month
Mm.
from podcast ads, and like YouTube is like minuscule compared to what we sell in podcast ads. So we don't want to drive people away from like our golden goose
Yeah,
to
yeah,
YouTube, you know?
Mm.
yeah. Because I think there's a
So
higher
so you
drop
can
off,
see like
right?
we have all this
Yeah,
stuff we're
yeah,
balancing. It's
yeah.
like it's
Gotcha.
really tough. It's really tough.
Yeah, because podcast listeners are sticky. YouTube is not so sticky. It's not as sticky. It's hard to be sticky on YouTube. Interesting. Well, I guess another idea I had for you guys. I haven't taken a look at your site, and you mentioned you haven't targeted any like other keywords on your website, right? Like your podcast, for example, your value investing podcast site. You guys have one, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And you're only uploading your podcast content there, right? You're not like targeting
On the
any,
website?
yeah, on the website.
No, we have. I mean, we have a pretty robust website. We have all our shows. I don't think you can actually can't even watch the specific show like episodes on the website. But like we have all our show notes. We have all the shows. We have a SaaS tool, finance tool.
Mm-hmm.
We have a couple courses. Uh, yeah, online courses. We just launched a mastermind community. We
Oh,
have
nice.
our newsletter, of course, that's like Morning Brew. And then we just recently, once I learned about the niche site world, we started to create content around keyword SEO specific keywords that would probably lead to either email subscribers or podcast listeners. And that's done well. We've doubled our website traffic in, I don't know, 6 months or so. And so that's up to like, we get like 300,000 to 400,000 page views a month. So, I mean, it's not massive, but it's
That's
decent
crazy.
size.
Yeah,
That's still yeah, that's legit.
that's legit.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not bad.
I'm sure you have display ads there, right?
No, we don't do any display ads because it's all that would be horrible for our brand.
I feel you on that.
Interesting.
I feel you. On one of my sites, I don't
It's
have
so it's not,
ads
it's
either.
because it's not a niche site. Yeah. It's not a niche site. Like that's not the
Yeah.
game, you know?
What about, okay. Okay. No, I hear you. I hear you. What about affiliate offers? Like credit cards you truly believe in, for example, they pay $200 CPA. I don't know if you have an Amex, those guys pay even more. You can have a personal negotiated rate with them. I'm sure it goes up to like $300-400, and your site is primed for that. You guys have podcast
Yeah.
listeners. You have all these external signals. I think personally, I don't know what you guys do, but I think credit cards, if you do it well, is like 6 figures monthly, just like free cash flow.
Yeah, so I'm looking right now. I think our authority score from SEMrush is like in the 50s or 60s. So we definitely have like good authority. So I do
Hmm.
think we could do well there. Um, yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely something we need to look at. So the two guys that originally founded it started the original show back in 2014. They tried affiliates like when they were just getting started. This was like, again, it's early,
Hmm.
early days, like 2015. It didn't work. So they've kind of like written it off, and like I have to kind of bring that back in and be like, hey, we could probably make some substantial revenue here if we do this. And so yeah, it's something that we definitely need to look at for sure.
Yeah, yeah, because I see a lot of good brands with. When I say good brands, I say like I mean brands with very strong external signals, not and they're not focused on SEO, and I see that way too often. So, for example,
That's us.
yeah, you guys 100%, but there's also like bustling local businesses that can benefit from like uh I don't know, like a famous local restaurant. I'm sure they can target affiliate keywords. It's a bit of a stretch, but their external signals are so strong that I've personally seen like they can rank for anything. So I've been like trying to partner up with like random businesses and just building out their content side, and it's working well, man. You guys should definitely take a look at that. So mainly I've seen like businesses like yours for sure. That's like number one, like uh, things that you're missing out on, as well as e-commerce sites. They also don't target affiliate offers, which is a bit counterintuitive because you'd assume e-com owners are more savvy than like brick and mortar businesses. Um,
Do you think we can compete with like NerdWallet though? Like, do you think it's really a endeavor that's worth it?
yeah, you guys have way better signals than NerdWallet. Well, not NerdWallet per se, but the other ones in the serves for sure. So you can say stuff like, you can slip in like, yeah, if you guys want to check out the best, credit card, we just came out with a guide. Just find us on Google. So they're gonna search your
Yeah.
brand name plus
Mm,
best credit
mm,
cards. Dude, that it's over, man. It's over. Like, what
Yeah.
do you get? Like ten
Yeah. We do
thousand
have good
searches.
authority. I just looked up. I was just curious. I haven't looked at this in a while, but like we have links from. Do you guys know Bigger Pockets? They're really
Yeah,
yeah.
authoritative. We got Forbes. We have uh, CNBC, and some of these are followed. Do follow. We got Tim Ferriss gave us a link. It's like we have some really
nice.
authoritative links. So yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. We should look into it. I
Yeah,
should look
and
into
if you
it for
shout it out on
sure.
the podcast, like Jackie said, and you get people to actually search the term on Google or YouTube or wherever you have the content, that's like how many thousands of people searching that term, literally probably at once as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, you might even hit
Yeah. Yeah.
Google
For sure.
Discover because of that, and
Yeah.
that's like that
Yeah.
shit
That's a
goes
good point.
nuts.
Plus the
Yeah,
newsletter.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Hmm. Um, yeah, I think you
I
should
wonder
definitely
though.
try
I
it.
wonder if it fits the audience. Like, I wonder. I wonder if we can benefit from it because we have an authoritative site.
Hmm.
I think we could drive SEO traffic. Like, I agree with you guys on that, but I wonder if it's going to be a good fit for the audience. Like, I don't know if value investors are gonna care. So that's one of the other struggles we have a
Mm.
lot is that value investors are a very interesting breed, and we
Yes, I've
found
been
that
trying
they're
to
like
tell. Yeah.
actually yeah, they're hard to sell. They're hard to sell to. And so I don't know if like we would get a lot of conversions from them to like I don't know if they'd care about like reading the top 10 credit cards or top 7 best credit cards, I don't know. It'd be interesting to
What
try.
about bank accounts and brokers, like stockbrokers and stuff like that too? Because they obviously, well, that's what they're using day to day, right? So that could be something that you
Yeah.
recommend.
Yeah, but what I mean, and I got to look into this more, so definitely don't
Yeah.
don't
We're
take
just
this as
spitballing.
a
It's cool. Yeah.
final. Yeah. But like the brokers we actually recommend and we believe in, like the brokerages don't offer affiliate programs. So like in order to
Oh,
get an
dude.
affiliate commission, we'd have to recommend like a Robinhood or like,
Oh yeah.
Webull or stuff like that, which
eToro.
we don't exactly. Stuff we don't believe in. Like we would recommend like
Schwab.
Vanguard or Fidelity or Schwab, exactly. And like I mean, I looked into Fidelity, I didn't see an affiliate program, so it's tough.
Oh, really, dude? You just contact them, man.
Yeah, that's true.
Huh?
I've never done that. Maybe I should try it.
Yeah, it's worth a message. They have a team, dude. They have somewhere in there. There's a team that manages this. It's just like buried under bureaucracy. Just have to comb
Yeah.
through it.
Well, they've
I'm
actually
sure
been on
you'll
our
find.
show. They've actually advertised on our podcast, and also I've had a couple people from Fidelity on the show. So I should reach. So I have contacts there for sure.
That seems like the perfect thing to just like the next step, just to boost revenue, is just send those emails.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I should.
man. You know what well, at least what I'm seeing with you, at least so far, is I mean, you're in the trenches every day, and I think like it's good to have a different perspective on things, right? Because
For sure.
I'm sure you miss things, and I find this with what's good with the newsletter side. Man, I wish there was like a community of people who actually actively share about like the newsletter growth stuff and like selling to sponsors. The niche site space, because they're so closed off, they just like never talk. Um, and I would love to like talk to someone about, for example, growing the podcast, growing the newsletter, tactics you've used to grow niche sites, but in like more granularly. But yeah, it's tough, man. Been been
So
dying to
let me give
talk.
you a couple things on the podcast. Yeah, let me give you a
Yeah.
couple things on the podcast while we're here. So one thing is I noticed people tend to, when they start a podcast, and I'm not saying this is you guys, but just like I see this a lot. When people try to start a podcast, they want to talk to the biggest names because it's cool.
Mm,
It is awesome. Like I remember I was super pumped to talk to some of the people that I've talked to that are big names, but they don't grow the show. And what I found is the bigger the name, like the biggest names don't, like sometimes they get the worst downloads. And actually the people that really drive growth for the show are somebody who has a decent sized audience, but they're actually willing to share the show. So that's what you need the most is like you need
mm,
somebody who's going to be a guest on the show that has an audience and is willing to share it. So I would rather have somebody that has 20,000 followers or 50,000 followers on Twitter and they told me they're going to share the link on Twitter versus having somebody that has 10 million followers, but they're not going to share it. I've seen this personally, like multiple times, be proven that those people with a small audience who actually share
mm,
it are way better for growth than the big names. So that's one. The second thing is the going on other shows. I think this is pretty well known, but being a guest on other people's shows is the biggest thing that one of the biggest things you can do to grow. Because what I found is that there's a lot of friction. There's a lot of what I call medium friction between
mm.
different mediums. So like it's hard to get somebody off of Twitter or Facebook or even a newsletter to listen to a podcast if they're not a podcast listener. Like if they're a
Yeah.
listener of podcasts already, then it's not bad. But if they don't listen, it's very, very hard to convert them. So when you go be a guest on podcast, it's a lot easier to get them to say, hey, I'm going to go check out this other show. I already listened to
Hmm.
podcasts. I'll just search them up. So that's another thing that's really big. And that kind of couples into like, I would way rather run ads on other podcasts than I would running ads on Twitter or Facebook. Like I've had really good luck with those for
Mm,
newsletters, subscribers, but not for the podcast at all. It's very hard to convert. And then, in that same vein is like swaps. So what we'll do is we'll go out to other size podcasts. We'll be like, hey, we'll give you 10,000 impressions. Well, at our scale, we'll give you 1 million impressions. You give us 1 million impressions and we'll just swap ads. So you talk about our
mm,
show. We'll talk about your show. We'll send each other traffic.
Hmm.
So those are a couple things. And the last thing I'll say is these are kind of like 4 or 5 different things that have worked really well for us is find, it's almost like your blog post title. Like you find out what your keyword is that your audience really, really cares about. So for us, if we put Warren Buffett in any of our podcast titles, they do way better than any other episode. Like that's just what they love. Like Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett, those guys, if we put their names in the title, the episodes do way, way better than anything else. And so what I've done is like really try to test so many different titles, different types of titles, etc. Not because there's a search engine of podcasts, because I don't think that really works that well in the apps, but it's really trying to get the audience to click. And I've just found that certain words really get people to click through. And so, I mean, you guys know SEO. It's like really trying to get that CTR up as high as possible. So yeah, if I could give any advice, those are like the 4 or 5 things I'd really focus on, especially for smaller podcasts.
yeah, yeah. I know I've heard of the large audience, but not sharing one before, for sure. Hmm. Yeah, we'll have to give it a think, James. Yeah, I guess switching to directions. Yo, how was the? Did you meet Warren Buffett, or were you just in the audience? How
No,
was that?
no, I was just in the audience. Yeah, it was good. I've this is my second time going, so yeah, nobody gets to meet him really. He's I mean, he's one of the richest guys in the world. He's old, so people try to keep sicknesses and stuff away from him. But yeah, no, it's always a great time. It's
Did you
pretty
meet cool
wild. You get
people?
it yeah, you get to meet a ton of cool people. As I was gonna say, it's like you have an entire basketball arena that sits like 40,000 people and it sells out just to listen
Cool.
to like these two, three guys talk about investing. Like it's a pretty wild experience.
Hmm. Are you sold on them? Are you like Warren Buffett is the number one investor of all time? Like, or are you somewhere in between?
When I was younger, so when I was a little bit, I mean, I'm still young. I'm only 28, so it's not like I'm old. But like when I was young, I started studying him when I was like 13 or 14. I studied him
What?
like
Whoa.
like super aggressively for like a decade, and I thought he was, you know, God's gift to earth. Like I thought he was the most amazing thing ever, and I do still think he's great. But I think more so it's about the principles that he teaches, the concepts he teaches, and applying those things to other aspects of your life and other types of business than it is just investing. Like I don't really do a lot of individual stock picking anymore. It's just I don't have time for it. And like for the first 10 years of like my investing, that's what I did. All I did was pick individual stocks. But today, like I'm almost all index funds with my personal investments. And then like I spend the rest of my time trying to build businesses and everything else that so I just don't have time to do the individual investing. So yeah, I do still think he's one of the greatest investors of all time. And I love a lot of what he talks about, but I take his principles and I apply them to other things. And I think that gives people like me a big advantage, whether it be real estate. I've seen a lot of advantages in real estate by applying his stock investing principles to real
Yeah.
estate, and even online business too.
Yeah. Um, Andrew Wilkinson does a good job of that. Are you a fan of him? Do you follow him closely?
Yeah, big fan, big fan. Yeah, he's been on our shows a couple times, and I met him in Austin a couple weeks ago.
Oh yeah. How was that?
It was good. Yeah, it was good.
Nice. Why'd you go to Austin? Are you based out of there, or did you
No,
fly
so
in
I'm in
for
the
that?
Boston area. Yeah, I'm in the
Okay.
Boston area. I flew in just to go to the My First Million thing. I've wanted to go to Austin and kind of check out. I mean, I've been there once before, but this was years ago, and it's blowing up now. So I was like, I kind of want to go there anyway. The guys are having the My First Million event, so yeah, let's just go fly down for the weekend and go to the event and check it out, see Austin, and yeah, so that's what I did.
Yeah. Was the event all the hype? Like, is it worth all the hype?
Yeah, it was cool. Not to their own fault, but like the questions and stuff they got from the audience kind of sucked. And if you ask
I'm
them,
sure
I
they
mean, I'm
didn't
sure
prep
they
them.
would tell you
Yeah.
no, and it's not their fault. But like the part they did was really good. But when they started doing Q&A, kind of sucked. And they did a like a Shark Tank style pitch for startups, and the startups all kind of sucked, to be honest. Like, and again, that's
Hmm.
not their fault, but yeah, the pitches weren't great, the products were kind of bad and stuff. But overall, the environment was really cool. Again, I mean, we're podcasters, so to see like 600 people fly in from all over the world and like sell out this little venue just to listen to these guys on stage is pretty it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Their audience is huge. Their reach is like insane right now. I think
Yeah.
even my girlfriend doesn't mind listening to them, and she hates like listening to whatever I talk about. Like she's probably heard ChatGPT at least 3 times a day right now. Um, yeah, but yo, what's your current like asset split? Is it heavily into real estate? Because that's how you got started, right? Or do you have like a hefty
So
stock portfolio as well? And you also have the tied up assets in your podcast network, by the way, like illiquid.
yeah. So how do you define real estate? Because everybody defines it differently. And when I say real estate, I mean like, do you want the or do you consider the total value of the asset or just the equity? Because that's a big difference.
Uh, I mean, it's equity minus loans, right? Or the debt.
Yeah. Well,
Sorry, the total value
so you
minus the
total price. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So just your equity. So if we look at just equity, I'm very evenly split between real estate and equities. But if you look at total asset value, so 5-10 years from now, when loans are paid down, I'll be way heavier in real estate than I am in equities. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much how I'm split. That's not actually how I got started though. So I was interested in real estate back in the day, but I always thought like, at least it's different now. But 10 years ago, when I was got interested in real estate, it was like you had to be rich. Like that's what everybody made it seem like. You had to be wealthy to get into real estate. And so I was like, okay, well, that's kind of how I found Warren Buffett. I was like, okay, this, stock investing thing is pretty cool. I'm going to get my
Hmm.
start in stock investing. I'll get rich that way. And then I'll take all that money I make from stock investing and then I'll put that into real estate. And so that was my plan. And then, long story short, I actually accidentally became a real estate investor. And because of that, I started to research real estate investing. And I was like, holy crap, like there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people all over the country that do exactly what I want to do. And they're no different than me. They're not rich. Like they have nothing different than I do. And so from there, like the light bulb switched and I was like, okay, I could become a real estate investor. And since then I've done more real estate than I've done equities, and that's how I became a real estate investor. And that's kind of how I think about things now. Is I'm pretty evenly split, but mostly focused on real estate.
Okay. And are you after like buying low and then what is it, the Burr method, and then you take out like money from the house, or are you more of like those short-term rental guys?
No, I don't own any short term rentals. Not because I don't really like short term rentals personally. Actually, my CPA told me 6 months ago, like, hey, if you buy a short term rental, you could save a lot of money on your taxes this year. And I didn't do it. I don't believe in it. And so again, this is kind of the principles that I live my life around, partially because of Warren Buffett. I just it's outside of my circle of competence, as Buffett would say. I don't believe in short term rentals. When I travel, I don't really like staying in short term rentals. I don't really like the
Yo, me too.
experience that much. Yeah, so
Me too. I hate
it
it.
just doesn't make sense. Yeah, me too. I'm like, it's so much easier to just book a hotel. I go to the front desk, get my key, and go to my room. Any problems I have, they're there. Like it's great. So I like hotels. I don't love short term rentals that much, so I just don't want to buy one. And so for me, yeah, I take a long term buy and hold approach to real estate. I do the burst strategy as well. I do buy things that need a little bit of work, fix them up, and then rent them out. But yeah, I own a lot of the assets for a long time. I don't really sell. I don't flip. I don't do anything like that. I just really simple, boring, buy things, fix them up, rent them out, and just hold them.
Yeah. I mean, are you seeing people starting to get wrecked by like I think in US is not so much because people tie up their interest rates for a long time, right? I think it's like you got like 25, 30 year mortgages, no? Like fixed rate mortgages.
Well, it depends. It depends. So, like, yeah, on some small stuff, yeah, but like when you get into the big stuff, when you get into, I mean, five
Like
units and
commercial buildings,
above,
right?
like,
Oh.
yeah, when you get into big commercial stuff, like say 25, 50 and up units, like a lot of that stuff's floating. Sometimes they'll fix it for 5 years, 10 years, maybe.
Mm,
Sometimes they'll buy an interest rate cap or something like that to mitigate their risk. But even then, like if you bought a 5 year term, like fixed term, you're still coming due like now if you bought it in 2018, 2019, right? So like those guys are probably in a rough spot. And I've heard of some people there was a huge syndicator in Houston, Texas that just lost like over 3,000 units or something like that to foreclosure. A lot of like the commercial buildings, not so commercial can be residential buildings that have a lot of units, or it can also be like office space. And so the people that have office space right now, I've heard a lot of bad stuff. Like people are getting crushed
yeah,
there.
I've heard that.
So yeah, it's a tough time out there for sure.
Yeah.
Robert, we have our listeners are mainly, I guess we could say niche website builders and things like that. But I guess the question becomes, why would you recommend or not recommend someone, I guess, diversify into real estate? Because a lot of people might be cash flowing 4, 5, 6 figures a month. They might be flipping websites on the side, making 5, 6 figures every time they flip. And it's kind of, okay, well, they can focus on that cash flow, make these big chunks of money. But then why diversify into hard assets like real estate? Is that something you would recommend someone do if they had enough money coming in?
Yeah, good question. So this is a really I think we could do a whole episode on this, but
Yeah.
one of the reasons why I love niche sites and why like when I learned about it, I was like my mind was blown because it's literally real estate just done online. Like I've been telling some of my real estate buddies, I'm like, guys, you could buy a website, fix it up just like you would a property, and flip it and sell it just like you would flip a house. And I told them, so that's one way. And I said, you could buy a website, fix it up, keep it, just collect the revenue every month, and just, that's like renting it out basically, like just like what we do in real estate. And I said you could build it from scratch, just like a development property. Like you're building a property from scratch, you could build a website from scratch and grow it. And so like the parallels are kind of like crazy. But what I have noticed and what we're seeing with AI is like, I don't know if you really always have a defensible business here, and like you can make way more money in terms of like pure cash flow on a monthly basis with a website, but long term, I don't know what that sustainability is going to be like versus real estate. Your returns on a monthly basis are going to be way lower, but it's probably a lot more sustainable long term. But it's not only that. What you also have to think about with real estate are a few things. One, you get tax advantages, at least here in the US. Massive tax benefits that can be super beneficial that you don't necessarily get with niche sites and online businesses. But also, you have to think about like, yeah, I might not be getting as much cash flow per month, but I have let's just say a $500,000 property that I'm going to own for 20 years. Somebody else is paying that mortgage. So now at the end of 20 years, I have a $500,000 asset that I didn't put any money into while I collect cash flow every month. And in 20 years, it's paid off. I own an asset free and clear for 500,000. Plus, it probably appreciated over 20 years to 750,000, if not more. So now I have this massive asset that I acquired without using my own money, essentially, other than my down payment and such, but like the tenants paid it off over that whole time, which you don't get necessarily with niche sites. And also you can leverage real estate a lot compared to like niche sites. You can buy real estate at 20% down compared to niche sites and stuff.
Yeah, I would actually, well, just to jump in there, I think the risk of niche sites are priced in. That's why the returns are so high. And also, I'd compare it to real estate more like if you were buying real estate in China and the Chinese government can come in and take it at any time, and they have been taking it from your neighbors around you like once a year or something like that, So it's kind of like playing a game of hot potato. I think it's definitely priced in, but I think what I personally see is there's too many degenerates who just hold for too long. And like James is guilty, man. James is guilty. Like he's got so much value locked up in niche sites.
Not my babies, man.
Yeah, but like,
but
you
like
have a baby now, you should should be more careful. You just got to be a bit more conservative sometimes, or at least take some chips off the table routinely. Because Robert, I'm not sure if you've seen, but like people get wrecked in this industry all the time. Like, I guess how many years?
My first million,
like 1 or 2. Yeah.
The My First Million guys. I don't know how often you listen, but they talk about how one of their friends built essentially a niche site. It wasn't quite a niche site from my understanding, but it was essentially a niche site. And I think he was going to sell it for $100 million. And almost all of the traffic was coming from Facebook. And this was back in the day when Facebook organic was huge. They flipped the switch, like literally while he was selling the site, next day, the sale fell through and he got $0, and he literally almost collected $100 million. Like if it was like a week later, he would have collected $100 million.
That's crazy.
And he lost it. Yeah.
So
good. Yeah. So, platform risk is
huge.
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah. So I think the diversification, like I think we spoke on this like in Twitter comments quite a bit, but you have to diversify like with risk on and risk off assets as well. And niche sites is definitely a risk on asset. But there's, if you're like into investing, there's a lot to be said. Like you're supposed to let your winners run or ride. You're supposed to ride your winners heavily. And also the most people who get the richest are the people who do take like concentrated bets. So I guess you can say that with niche sites as well. So you take like concentrated bets. James with his like 2-3 niche sites. They're very, very concentrated, high risk, but that's like the highest chance or highest probability of wealth creation as well. So people who have like went all in on Tesla 5 years ago, they probably think they're geniuses, right? But I just don't know how much of that is, survivorship bias just because they haven't been wrecked yet, and how much of that is actually them taking concentrated bets, or do they not even know they're doing that? I don't know.
It's both. It's both, and it's luck.
Yeah,
It's all three
yeah,
of those things. It's being concentrated, it's luck, and survivorship bias. Because to James, James has successful niche sites, the guys that bought Tesla, etc. But like, what about all the people that bought all these other companies that they thought they were going to be the next Tesla and they weren't? Like, we don't hear anything about those guys,
yeah, yeah. I think luck has a lot to do, but it's not luck when you let the asset ride, right? Because to be quote unquote stupid enough to ride Tesla for 10 years is, there's something to be said. You have to be quite disciplined, right? Because you're tempted for sure. If you have 10,000 shares of Tesla today and you bought it like, I don't know, 10 years ago, when they first IPO'd, how do you not sell? Like, that takes a ridiculous amount of discipline. So I think the same discipline applies to niche sites, or SaaS companies. Like one of our previous sponsors, a guy I speak to quite a bit. He has like a AI writer, content writer, whatever. I told him to sell it at like 10K MR. I'm like, dude, get the hell out of here. You have like $0 in anything else. And then he loves sending me screenshots. Like last month, he's like, yo, man, I just hit 35K. I shouldn't have listened to you. You like, I mean, he's still holding on to it, right? So he's like rubbing in his like upside. But then, you're right. No one ever speaks about the downside. Like, what happens if they get wrecked? They're just like crawling back into their hole and they don't talk about it.
Yeah. So
And I just
Buffett
wonder,
has a
like,
quote that two things. He says diversification is for people who don't know what they're doing. So I love that. But he also says you don't find out who's swimming naked till the tide goes out. And unfortunately, your friend there, he might be swimming naked when the tide goes out, on all this AI stuff and competition and whatever. He might be caught. He might have been better off taking some chips off the table.
yeah, I think taking chips off the table, it's also there has to be some sort of formula. Like some private equity guy definitely crunched it and they're like, all right, it's probably worth the upside. I don't know what the formula is, but I'm sure they
The way
run
I think
every
about
scenario.
it,
Yeah.
the way I think about it is if it's your first bet, like if it's your first win and it's going to be like pretty material, if it's your first win, my opinion, what I would do is take the chips off the table. Like if you don't have any big wins and this is going to like really change your life, take the chips off the table. And then for your second project, your third project, whatever, like let it ride. If you really, like, if you want, like set your, like to make sure you're set, like make sure you're good. And then once you're good, let it ride. Like take the chance if that's what you want to do. If that's how you feel and you are willing to let it ride, let it ride. Let it see what happens and ride it to the end. But for me, it's like, at least the way I like to look at it is set yourself up first and then go from there, because I really believe very strongly in going at things from a position of offense rather than defense. And a lot of people are going at all these things from a position of defense because they have they have to do certain things, versus if you could only do things the way you want and stay in it and because you believe in it, I think that's the way to go.
I agree. James, man, gotta sell one of your babies. I think
I was going to say, James, if I were you, I don't know your financial situation, but like if it would materially change your life, I would sell one and then let the other one ride. If that's,
I don't think it would be
and
enough
then
now. I still need to grow way more before I'd even consider selling at this point, I reckon. And especially with the second one too. The second one has the biggest upside because it's in like fitness strength sports, which has like the fucking biggest audience in the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's like, that one's still growing. That one's still too new.
Yeah, fuck. It's I like having this conversation. It helps me like think.
This is why they play the game.
Yeah, and it's fun. It's fun to discuss it, like, because I used to not be able to sleep well at night when there's like Google updates, right? Because it materially impacts your life. But now I sleep like a baby, like having, a well-diversified portfolio, having the place, the short-term rental place, it feels like if everything fails, like if Google goes away tomorrow, I'll be okay. And it feels pretty damn good,
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see. We'll see. Robert, you must sleep like very well at night because you got zero platform risk. You got like a complete, like pretty much zero, right? How does podcast go away? Like, I guess if we play the devil's advocate here, how can you guys go to zero? It's impossible, right?
Well, in terms of audience, yes, advertisers could go away.
Oh yeah,
So that
true.
we're kind of dependent there. So that could go to zero. We've had just in the recent times, we've had two times where it was a little scary, to be honest. Like during the very initial days of COVID, it was a little hairy. People were pulling
Hmm.
their budgets, not so much like our download numbers and stuff. Like they were more or less fine, but it was just advertisers pulled back quite a bit when COVID first started. And, it came back really quickly. So it ended up not being a huge deal, but that was one. And then, like I said, at the end of Q4, like we were a little worried, to be honest. Like, yeah,
Hmm.
this is kind of getting tough. So yeah, we don't have platform risk really because we could be on every platform with our podcast. We have the RSS feed, we have the newsletter, we own our audience, etc. For the most part.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, we are reliant in the sense of like 97% plus of our revenue comes from podcast ads. So
Yeah. Huh. And sorry, I just want to try to understand is how profitable are you guys? Do you have like hella free cash flow where you can survive? Like, what if it's a multi-year recession? Advertisers pull back probably a full year. Are you guys like just completely clapped? You're gonna have to probably let people go to survive. Yeah. Have you like thought out all the scenarios? I'm sure you did actually in Q4. I'm sure you're like, oh fuck,
we
if
did a
this goes
lot.
on.
We did a lot of planning in Q4. Yeah. So couple different questions there. So yeah, we're
Yeah,
very
sorry.
profitable.
Yeah.
I'd say 90, I don't know the exact numbers, but like 90% maybe free
Mm-hmm.
cash flow margins roughly, like very, very
Sick.
profitable. But, but, and also like we study Warren Buffett. So like we run the business from a Warren Buffett mindset. So like we have a lot of cash in the bank. Like we're not like really stressed. Like we have a war chest just like Buffett does like that. We have no debt. Like that's how we run the business. But at the same time, like we have a big team. We have like 25 or 30 full-time people on the team.
Whoa.
So, yeah, so I mean, we have a big burn, right? Like every month, like if we don't
Yeah.
have money coming in, like we have a big burn. So, while we have a war chest of cash and, we run the business very conservatively, but like 25, 30 people full time is not cheap every month. So, plus like, and that's just people costs plus all our software costs. Like
Mm-hmm.
we have a bit our podcast bill every month is quite a bit and all the other software that we use. So I mean, yeah, our burn every month is pretty high. So it can be a little hairy at times.
Yeah. Hmm. Well, I think, God, I hate watching do you watch the All In podcast as well? It's a bit
No, I
more
don't.
intense. You've heard of them, right?
Yeah, I've heard of them. I've actually just listened to my first episode like the other day,
Yeah, it's a
but
lot. It's a lot. But also it's pretty negative at times, especially David Sachs. He like it's like calling the recession every time. So it makes me feel a bit iffy. Um, yeah, I think I've been trying to set up for a recession for the last couple months, and it looks like it's pretty soft-ish landing. So I guess we'll see. But yeah, there's a lot of like risk right now. There's like uncertainty in the market. I don't feel very confident in it, especially with the bank runs. I'm sure that was scary for you guys too, right? Uh, James and Robert and being in
yeah,
the U.S.
yeah, in a sense because a lot of our advertisers are startups, so we're very heavily funded essentially like our advertisers by VC funded companies. So, when stuff like the SVB goes down, yeah, that can hurt us. Or, funding for startups dries up, like that hurts us because those startups are the ones that, excuse me, they're often advertising with
Hmm.
us.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I guess. Yeah. We'll see though. We'll see. I think I'm gonna start buying up some niche sites soon as well. Pretty bullish on the affiliate side because I don't know if you know, but
So you're not
there's
worried
like the
about AI?
I am worried about AI. But I think other
I'm
people are
very
more
worried.
worried about AI. So, I'm a bit of a degenerate that way. I'll take some bets here. And then we'll see. We'll see. I'll try to
I'm
take
pissed.
chips
I'm
off the
pissed
table.
about it. I'm
Why?
so mad about it. Like, because I literally just learned about niche sites about almost a year ago. And like I sold my first one. It was a small win, like just to get like that win under my belt, make sure I knew what I was actually doing. And this site, like I know for a fact that this would have been at least 7 figures. If everything had just stayed the way it had been for the last like, I don't know, couple years, like I know this would have been a really successful site. And
Yeah.
now I think it's just going to get wiped out with AI. And it's a bummer. It's a bummer.
I think you have like a year or two at least
You
to
think?
just
Yeah.
execute. Yeah, I think so. I think so.
And diversify the traffic at the same time.
Yeah. I think at least you can crank it with the help of AI. Do you use it every day, by the way, Robert? Right now?
AI?
Yeah, ChatGPT, any other
Yeah,
tools?
every day. I have it pinned on my browser. Yeah, every day.
Yeah, it makes content creation like stupid easy. It takes like 30 seconds now.
But you don't
Yeah,
think
it's
so?
like
You think it's going to be that long before Bard is like integrated into the SERPs?
I think I don't trust Google's execution. They have some terrible rollouts of software. I think there are some queries. I think it's very hard for certain queries to answer using Bard. So the best XYZ, I just know that because we run a lot of AI experiments. It's very tough to come up with good answers. So my example is if you I don't personally trust Google right now if I'm looking to buy a laptop, you know. Number one is SERPs is like some garbage website, like probably from Red Ventures or something like that. I go to Reddit, you know. So that act alone means other people feel that way and they'll go to like YouTube
But you're in the
for
small there.
reviews.
You're in a small population there. I think.
Sorry, what's that?
I feel like you're in a like I think I do agree with you. Like I feel the same way, but I think like the mass population doesn't
Yeah, it's
feel
true.
that way. Like you know what I
It's true.
mean? So my girlfriend tells me this all the time. She's like, get out of this bubble. Like get out of the Twitter bubble. Like there's a lot of people that think very differently than you in the real world, and you got to stop thinking about just the way that you do things and the guys on Twitter do things because it's very different.
Yeah, it's true. Man, I'm going up to random people on the street and just whispering ChatGPT in their ear, man. They're like, it's bad right now, man. With like thread bullying in real life. No, it's
Yeah.
no, we're definitely in a bubble. It's bad. And also like
Have you used Koala?
Koala? Hell no, no, man,
Yeah,
dude.
I've
Unless they
tried
sponsored the podcast. James, how could you do that, man?
I tried it once.
So
But I tried
they
the
have
free
a
one.
pretty good yeah, there's like their Koala thing that does they do like affiliate like best of
Mhm.
things and it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm sure they have a good prompt, or they have a good what is it? Yeah, I guess prompt would be a good way to say it. They have they've set it up properly. But yeah, I think yeah, I guess speaking on the Twitter bubble, actually, that's I feel pretty broke when I go on Twitter, man. I feel like I'm
Oh, me too.
the dumbest
Me too.
person in the room. I've like
Yeah.
heavy imposter syndrome every time I'm on there. I'm like, why am I tweeting
too.
at all? You know,
Me too.
like there's people
Well,
way
the
smarter.
first thing what is the first thing you said to me when we got on? You got to be more active on Twitter.
Yeah.
Here's your answer why I'm not.
Oh really? Man, no, you're killing it, man.
I mean, it's
think you
part of
should.
it. It's part of it.
I think what I've noticed is Twitter helps you. If you ever want to launch another company, like in SaaS, has to do with I don't know where your followers are, but like take me for example. If I want to launch a SaaS business in the SEO niche, I'm sure I can get the first 100 customers off Twitter. Like how hard is the first 100 customer for a VC funded startup? You know, I think there's a lot of value in building an audience, and Twitter is like the easiest way, at least in our industry. But yeah, I guess
100% agree with you.
yeah.
But I can't
think
pick. That's my problem. I
yeah.
can't pick one thing to focus on. Like I love stock investing. I love real estate. I love. I'm really interested. I'm not good at it, but I love learning coding. I just started learning a little bit about that. I love SEO. I love digital marketing. Like I like building websites. So like I have these like I don't know. I'd say at least 5 big topics that like I could make my account focused on, but
Mhm.
like I can't do that because I have so many interests, and that's why honestly that's probably the biggest reason why I don't tweet much, is because I can't focus on one thing to just consistently tweet about.
Yeah, I have that struggle too. I have like so many things I want to talk about, like newsletters, SEO, real estate
Exactly.
sometimes, and my audience is like heavily SEO. So like when I tweet any other things, they're like, "The fuck are you doing, man?" Like, and like
Exactly.
the response is like the reception or like the engagement is a lot lower. But I guess you have to dive into one topic. Listen, man, yo, it was good to have you on. I think we're running a bit overtime, but it was fun to chat, man. I think we had
Likewise.
good to think through a lot of these topics, and good to have someone else on besides just me and James arguing about if he should sell one of his sites or not, man. But
We should do a
Robert,
full
where can
episode on
people?
that.
Yeah. We're gonna do a separate episode. Robert, where can people find you? Give
Yeah,
a quick
Twitter's the
plug.
best place. Yeah, Twitter's the best place. Just the Robert Leonard without the D at the end. And then, yeah, podcast, just Google The Investors Podcast or go to theinvestorspodcast.com. You'll find all our content, all our podcasts there.
All right, amazing. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it.
Yes.